Good afternoon and welcome back to Tame Bay Live. A really interesting session coming up now. How to grow your e-commerce store to a multi-channel business. Everything's going to be talked about, from increasing your product visibility and brand awareness to diversification, getting your products for sale on multiple marketplaces and channels, and basically how to get your product listings in front of the largest possible audience and convert the most potential customers possible. Now, I'm pleased to say we've got two speakers coming up today. Stephen and Eric, welcome to both of you. Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. In terms of my background, I started in the e-commerce world and found myself actually into a multi-channel business and seeing what the struggles were for going from just an idea from concept on the shelf. And really excited to be with you all today. And thanks for having us.
Yeah, nice to meet everybody. So I was lucky enough to fall into e-commerce by way of content creation and marketing, and started dabbling in Amazon in 2016, and that's evolved into just learning a ton about every platform that we can get our products and brands onto. And so I'm excited to kind of go through our growth story and how we came to work with Stephen and his team at Gemba. And one of our brands, Cali Weights, will take you through our evolution there, which has been a really fun experience and rewarding. All right. Stephen, you there? All right. So you want
Great. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, well, happy to get started. Didn't know if Chris was leading the way. So
you go for it, Stephen.
Sounds good.
Brilliant to have you here, and also brilliant to have a retailer as well. So
absolutely.
Let's go.
Yeah. So I'll explain a little bit more about my background then. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur from the beginning of time. My grandfather was one of the first importers of tools in America, and really had kind of this entrepreneurial vision driven into my bones. And I can remember when I was first starting, just following him around, watching him grow his business, his multi-channel business, through time. And he was in the product creation business. And my first business was Pride Bites, which helped brands expand into the pet space. Shortly after we launched, we got Best Pet Product of the Year in the pet space, and then was on the show Shark Tank, and got selected by two sharks to fund our business, and had a lot of growth and got to see what it was like to go from 0 to 60 really, really fast from a product creation standpoint. But really where
Stephen. Just for our UK readers, Shark Tank is a bit like Dragon's Den. It's a really big deal, high pressure pitch to investors to try and attract money. And anyone that's watched Dragon's Den, which I think is just about everyone in the UK, will know it's rare to get a deal, let alone to get a deal with two dragons, or two sharks in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a really fun experience to be a part of. Me and my business partner, Sean, we were ultra prepared in that situation, and we're excited to get into the tank or the den for you all in the UK. And it was a really fun experience to see. But what we really noticed was the challenges of going from 0 to 60 in that case, and launching multiple products over multiple channels, and working through that. And I think we went from about 0 stores to a couple thousand stores essentially overnight. And so it was going back and forth from Asia, focusing on product development. I even had to get to the point where had to learn the language in Chinese to be able to manage my teams effectively. And so I really got to work with every aspect of product creation, and that led us to what we do today, or what I do today in Gemba, and the first marketplace for product development and supply chain management. So really going from discovering it to designing it, sourcing it, producing it, and shipping it, all the way through that model. And that's really where I got to meet Eric. Eric, I'll let you go into your background now before we dive in, but it's really product creation and development is really in my bones and in the essence of what we do at Gemba. And really great that we have the opportunity to work with amazing people such as Eric. So Eric, I'll let you steal the show here.
Awesome. So before selling products for our own brands. I was learning how to do this for Fortune 50 and Fortune 500 companies, selling a lot of product online for Walmart and LucasArts and video games and all kinds of apparel. And I think around the time of 2016, I was like, oh, I want to create my own product, slap my logo on and test out the Amazon waters. And that was an incredible time to jump in that space. I think there were a lot of people that were just doing a lot of great work and teaching newbies like myself how to do this. And so it was a different time then, but we were able to quickly scale up to some large numbers. And we sold our first private label brand on Amazon. And I got a really good taste and feel for what it was like to make physical products, import them, deal with logistics, supply chains, vendors, those kinds of things. And so over the course of a number of years, we've then layered on and launched new private label brands across Amazon. But then, as all things, you start thinking, all right, I've kind of built something here. Why aren't I not on all these other platforms? And you need to be thinking about launching on all these other platforms strategically, right? We don't want to spread ourselves too thin, but there's customers that are buying from everywhere. So if you can figure out your operations and your merchandising and your inventory management in a way that you can spread out your store and fulfill across all these channels, then you're going to put yourself at an advantage. And so after doing some typical private label products, we wanted to double down and add some complementary products to our target customer base, which in this case for one of our brands was fitness and workout folks and health folks. And we wanted to create something truly custom that was not on the market, that we could have protect ourselves and create a patentable product. And that's when we started going into product development and really started tooling around with what's something that's not on the market now, that may or may not sell, but we want to test the waters. And so as we grew, our Amazon and Walmart brands in the fitness space, we partnered up with Gemba to figure out how we can create something that no one else had on. And so that's the idea of Cali Weights. So Cali Weights they're weighted wearable jewelry. So it's metal wrapped in silicone, and then it's pretty jewelry. It's weights disguised as jewelry. And so we were our fulfillment center ships these 200-pound, 250-pound sets of weights, and logistics and pallets. I mean, sea shipping, it all gets really expensive. And so we were like, what's a lighter, this health product that we can work on? And so my wife was like, hey, there's some really interesting stuff on the market. Why don't you, customize and make something different for yourselves? And so that's how we came up with the idea of Cali Weights. And so we'll show you some of the slides of how we came through that process, but it was a long process, and coronavirus hit right in the middle of that process and slowed things down. But we pushed through, and we leveraged all of the knowledge that we got from selling on places like Amazon and using data to drive decision making, and working with Gemba to find the right manufacturers and the right materials. And when you find something that's got product market fit, which we proved by doing an Indiegogo campaign. So we got funded in about 4 hours. When you find something that's got product market fit, and you can make it work, then you just do everything you can to keep pushing it across. And suddenly we've got retailers reaching out to us. We're going to be on air on QVC. We're carried in 55 or 58 stores across the country. And didn't plan for a lot of that. It just happened by bringing an interesting product to the market. And if you can bring value to your customer, then God willing, they'll spread the word and more people will buy. And so, I'm super excited because I've learned so much, and I'll talk about everything I learned on the Shopify space, which is such a powerful tool to really truly build your brand. And it's a lot of fun. And, some days are really, really tough, and you have to make hard decisions. And you have to adapt to this ecosystem and the environment and the pandemic. But it's just super, super cool to see your product, not just on an Amazon listing, but in a physical store where people can pick it up and touch it and give it to their family for a gift. So it's been a fun journey, and I feel like there's so much more to learn, and we're just getting started.
That's great. That's great. I appreciate your background. So, a little bit about today, about, kind of how we're going to lay this out. I want to kind of give the foundation for really what at Gemba we think about product, and really how I experienced it as I went through my journey at Pride Bites as well. And then, kind of relate that obviously to your stories, Eric, and what you went through, and the types of product journeys that we describe to our clients are kind of in three types of projects. We have our first, which is the white label journey. This is, most commonly known as OEM manufacturing. I'm going to contact a factory. They currently have a catalog. I'm going to take those products and I'm going to brand them and then put them onto the market as my own. The second part or journey that we talk about a lot here at Gemba is that OEM plus one, that product plus one. And in this case, it's something of similar function that you can find in a catalog, but something that you can customize with a minor feature to make that more of your own, to further kind of lengthen that moat between you and your competitors. And then finally, we have our new product development or design for manufacturing, which is, Eric, what you just described with Cali Weights, and like you to go into that as well. But in this case, really leveraging, learning about channel strategies and research and all of the fundamentals that go behind a product, instead of already using one that could have been successful from a catalog or something that you already have a hunch on in the market, and really developing it completely from scratch. So, Eric, I think as you thought about it, the start of your journeys, as you described today, as selling on eBay and Amazon, and coming through to kind of that customized journey that you're in today. Tell me a little bit about the thought process of how you went there, and kind of what you're thinking about today.
Sure. So, I think a great place a lot of us have started is process number one, right? We do some heavy market research. We see what's in demand. We find a manufacturer that's not going to produce, crap product, and we put our label on it, and we hope that it sells. And I think that worked really well back in the day. But as we've seen, it's gotten pretty saturated. So that's why, a lot of the Amazon teachers, and even I taught a lot of, the students that would take my consulting, we have to come up with something that's a bit more unique. And so that could be a feature, it could be a bundle, it could be some type of added offer that makes your product, stand out. So you're not just selling the next, water bottle, but you're selling the water bottle that does something truly magnificent, or it looks magnificent, or it gives your customer a magnificent feel that they're going to buy your water bottle over the other guys. And so what's great about starting off on process one is you get a feel for how to do it. Like you get a feel for what it's like to actually place a large or medium size purchase order, and do the inspections and communicate with multiple vendors to make sure that you're getting the real story, and that, they're going to sell you something that when your customer opens it up, they're not going to want to return right away, because then you're just wasting your money. And if you don't have, boots on the ground in China, Vietnam, India, wherever you want to manufacture, you need to be very smart with how you're picking your partners. And so there's a lot of testing involved. You want to get a lot of samples, because again, you got to act like you're the customer opening it. And so by kind of strengthening some of those muscles and getting comfortable with that, you get smarter about, okay, my decision-making is going to be a lot faster as to what kind of niches or what kind of products I want to pick, and what kind of direction I want to take that product, and just how much capital I need to invest to elevate the product. Because it can get quite expensive when you're developing molds and when you're developing new features. And if you do a lot of guessing, then you can burn through capital pretty fast. And I've made a ton of mistakes, and we've wasted a lot of money. And I've certainly launched products that, I wasn't prepared to support, whether it was in the electronic space or just a high cost product. I wasn't doing the proper calculations, where if I needed to order 2,500 units and each one was costing me $12, that's a pretty nice purchase order for, in the beginning, right. It's a side hustle.
Right.
So right. You learn such rudimentary business foundational skills, managing a P&L, managing cash flow, inventory management. And I recommend you start small and you start simple so that you can get all those skills down. And if you're going to make mistakes, you make small mistakes, right? Small losses are okay. And so you start graduating to, okay, bigger purchase orders, slightly more complicated product. Maybe you're bundling one or two things or multiple pieces from different vendors. So now you're doing logistics, and now you have this vendor making sure that they deliver the pieces to this vendor and they're all wrapped up nicely. And so now it's much more inventory management, much more QA, QC. And so, I think by the time we came ready to do Cali Weights, which was, truly, starting from CAD, starting from scratch, we knew what our numbers needed to be. We knew what we wanted to sell them for. We knew what we wanted to manufacture them for. And we also knew that it was a lot cheaper to do sketches and to do 3D renderings and comps than it was to just go in and start doing molds, which I probably would have done in the very beginning when I didn't know what I was doing. All right. So you make a lot of assumptions. But
I like what you said about the strengthening the muscles. I think that's absolutely critical. And I don't think enough people. So essentially what you feel like is like that you got pulled through to the kind of the third process. In Pride Bites, I saw the same sort of thing. We started out with kind of these general shaped dog toys, and then really evolved into a lot of array of products and customized products. And I do feel like it, my entrepreneurial journey was, my muscles were strengthening. I was understanding kind of the flow of the types of products that were there. And I was almost like pulled through. Is that kind of similar to how you feel, or is that what you're describing?
That's absolutely right. You can start, you have a bit more foresight. You kind of start to get a sense of what could go wrong, what's going to go wrong. Where can I, what kind of error, what kind of gaps can I avoid? That kind of knowledge, like, it just comes with experience. There's no doubt about it. And you can work with people that can help guide that process. But if you're going to do it by yourself, just make sure you're doing it so it's a bit more, manageable numbers. You're not just blowing $50,000 on something that you don't know if it's going to do well. And so you're absolutely right. Like, it's definitely something that I had to grow maturity to make some better decisions, for sure. You have a question?
I saw that. Is it a better approach when you're first taking your product to market? Is it a better approach for retailers, approach retailers with volume sales, or to attempt to sell consumers directly, which will give your customer data maybe less volume? I'm sure you have some thoughts on that, Eric.
Yeah, and you as well. I think it's truly dependent on the brand. And a lot of people, they need to make sales right away. So that's why they'll go into a platform like Amazon, Walmart, eBay, where there's a lot of customers, hundreds of millions of customers. And Amazon, Walmart, they're kind of spoon feeding you customers. You have to work to earn them, but they're there and they're doing logistics for you. And so that's a quick way to either see if a product's going to sell and start building your brand. Going directly to retailers, that takes energy, it takes time. And you need the retailers, in order for them to trust you, they have to see your brand and they have to see what kind of presence you have, or social proof. And we have another slide that'll talk through some of this stuff.
So this is a nice. I'll let you in and kind of segue into this one, but I definitely feel that if like in the famous book Crossing the Chasm, I think if you take those early adopters really, really early, and you don't have to really test your products. And in Pride Bites, because we did this a lot, we send a ton of samples to a lot of retailers, but first got to test it out on the e-commerce world and figure out really, what our customers like or don't like, and get that direct feedback. Even if it's not a lot of sales, it really, I think, helps you get in the mindset for what it's like as you're transitioning to that channel strategy and starting to talk to buyers, right? And I think buyers, I think they're kind of the ultimate voice of the customer. Kind of talk me through now, getting through that, the mindset of the type of product you wanted to go with Cali Weights. And then as now you're starting to define your channel strategy and start thinking about, hey, where will I go with this? And what kind of different stack of channels will I be using together?
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of ways to build up a brand. Some people just live on Amazon. They build massive, 7-figure, 8-figure brands just on Amazon. And that's great, right? If you want, you can expand beyond that brand. And I've seen a lot of success with acquisition. So if you plan to sell your brand, it really boosts your valuations when you've got, a website and social proof and an email, and SMS list and social media. All those things just make your brand more defensible. And so when we've sold some brands, those things are really attractive, because if all of your eggs are in one basket and if Amazon shuts down your listing, then you're in trouble. So it's definitely a good idea to diversify. So this channel strategy, this is our route, but it's one of 1 million ways that you can do this. And so, you can start off on any number of channels, and you want to test the waters with your product. And you've got tons of customers there that can give you feedback. And so you can kind of tool and optimize your product. And you can very quickly see what kind of value add you need to add, or if the product's great enough, what additional products can you add on to it so that you can increase your revenue. The more products you have in your product mix, the more revenue you're going to get. And so as moving forward, like as you start launching more products, you want to, test, you want to find some of the winners and double down on those, and you want to kill the losers. And so that's why you don't go and order 10,000 units of something you don't know if it's going to sell. And so a lot of this, again, is going back to market research. What kind of data-driven decision-making can you make? What kind of demand is there? What are your competitors doing? How can you capture some of their sales? How can you capture more sales from other folks, and what kind of optimizations can you make, whether it's in the product, whether it's in the listing, whether it's in the back end? Is it a piece of content that goes viral? Is it just, a patentable, material? There's a number of things that you can do, and it really it's going to come down to you as an entrepreneur, what kind of resources you have. So
which is just I guess what you're describing, not just one option, right? You have to throw a lot of different things at it to get it to work. And it's just not just one, direct line, right?
That's right.
And then in terms of the channel selection, when you're thinking about it, from Amazon to Shopify, is it, from your perspective and starting on Amazon, is it kind of the built-in tools are there for you, and then kind of starting to go out on your own, so to speak, as you approach Shopify? Or kind of take me through your thinking as you go from your channel selections from Amazon and eBay and Walmart to Shopify.
Yeah. So everything we were doing was just, let's launch on Amazon, eBay, Walmart, and let's just capitalize and hit on generic products that people want, whether it's weights, apparel, office products. Those are the kinds of things that we sell a lot of. When I launched Cali Weights, I was like, you know what? I don't want to put this on Amazon, because no one is going to search for Cali Weights. No one's going to really, find our product necessarily. And I want to have the capability to own my customers and drive traffic to Amazon how I saw fit. And so Shopify is such an easy platform to spin up. And there's a million awesome Shopify devs, and there's a million awesome plugins and apps that can make your business truly automated, whether it's review collection, returns, incorporating your social media. And so it's a great way to have a customer, see your brand story and experience your brand, and then buy your product. And you can fulfill your own product, or you can integrate Shopify with Amazon and have Amazon fulfill that. So, I really wanted to have this brand live on its own. And when it was ready, put it on Amazon so that people would search it for Amazon, and I could take my email subscriber list of 18,000 people and say, hey, we just launched on Amazon. We'd love to get your feedback. We launched a new style on Amazon. Can you go there and purchase and tell us what you think? And so owning your audience is extremely valuable. And as you know, you don't really get that with Amazon and Walmart. Sure.
You've gone through these, you own your customer, you're starting to test to understand more about your customer base.
Right.
And now you start thinking about multi-channel, really start to find out. So kind of what's the first process in that journey from a perspective of, I'm going to go outside of these realms. I'm going to start focusing B2B and start selling to retailers.
Yeah. So some of these things just happen naturally. Like I was thinking about going B2B. I didn't really know how to do it. And actually I asked Steven how to do that, and he gave me some really good feedback on how to approach thinking about retailers. And by having our own website and by having a simple contact form Suddenly we had stores that were seeing our stuff on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, reaching out to us and saying, hey, your product looks really interesting. I'd like to buy, 18 sets for my customers. And I can't tell you how exciting that first reach out to me was, because it's a brand new product in the market. These people have never touched it. They've never seen it in a store. And suddenly they want to sell it in their little boutique, their gym, what have you. And so that gives you a lot of confidence, right? And suddenly you're like, okay, this is a channel I need to focus on. And there's a number of ways to do that. Am I going to do it myself? There's only so many hours a day. Am I going to hire an agent to broker some of these relationships? And so you have to figure out, like, where do you want to spend your investment? In our case, I didn't want to pay any kind of retainer for an agent to get us in the stores. I wanted it to be either a commission basis, because we started having more and more retailers reaching out to us. But we got there by putting our brand out there, by doing everything and anything, hiring influencers, all the same stuff that you do on Amazon. You hire an influencer or a blogger and they link to your Amazon page. We're doing that, but they're linking to our Shopify page. I want to collect as much data from those customers as possible. And so, there's truly no one answer for it, but I would say it really depends on your budget and where you want to spend your energy. In our case, if the retailers had not started reaching out to us, I probably would have doubled down on Amazon and Walmart, just because there's also an inventory limit to how much inventory I have, right? Like I can't, spend so many hundreds of thousands of dollars on inventory unless I know it's moving. And so that goes back to our cash flow and managing your P&L. This slide is, basically we're doing, for our generic stuff and even for our custom stuff, we're doing as much market research as possible. We're using a number of tools. Helium 10 just happens to be one of our favorite ones, to get in there, dive into the data, see what the trends are, see what kind of price point we can sell these are, and see what our competitors are doing well and what they're doing terribly. And so this is just a sample of touchless trash can, right? Like this is all the data I was collecting about touchless trash cans, just to know, is it worth going in and investing in developing a product like this? And if I do, where is it going to end up? Is it going to end up on Google Ads? Is it going to end up in Best Buy or Bed Bath & Beyond? There's a number of factors depending on the product. And so
I want to add this here because, from our perspective and what I learned at Pride Bites as, launching Pride Bites and growing Pride Bites was, first the type of product, understand your product journey, where you're headed with it, where does white label come into it, and where do you get to DFM or product development, true product development, and then turning to your channel strategy, really building up the foundation and understanding I'm here and this is where I want to get to when I add multi-channel and how I want to go about it, and then finally the element of market research. And you mentioned Helium 10, amongst others that we know and we recommend in terms of partners at Gemba. But I think in this case is just really. I saw what part of the go-to-market strategy would you advise a seller to outsource, and this is definitely one of them. I think you stick to your core entrepreneurial traits, whatever they are, from you as a leader, and then you look elsewhere if it's trying to understand the market, building the presentations, as Eric said, doing the ads or the online ads. If it's going into this realm, at Gemba we often tell people to go and outsource these types of things so that they can stick to what they should be doing and focusing on the physical product itself and how to get it out there and that strategy. So I think, Eric, any other thoughts on as we start building this foundation, kind of what you thought about with go-to-market and what you outsourced?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to touch on Andy's question in two slides. So go for it. Go to the next slide really fast. Cool. This just shows you like a truly customized, from CAD to a physical product.
So came to Gemba, really learned in terms of the process of working with a designer, right? Found a team, vetted designer, started working on this modeling in this CAD, or kind of describe the process there.
Yep. So concept was some sort of very comfortable wearable weight that didn't look like it was from the 80s. There's some really great competitors on the market, no doubt. But we wanted to bring something truly special to us. And so we went through a number of iterations. We landed on this one just because it was different than anything we'd seen. It was just interesting looking, and you could stack them. Meaning, so this is a truly versatile product. Each one is a quarter pound. So we have grandmoms that wear one set, like one band on each wrist, and they go for a walk. We have folks that wear 3 on each wrist. So you can do up to a pound on a wrist, right? And we have the option of making these half pound per. So it's truly versatile. It's comfortable. It's super smooth silicone. So you can wear them, all day without any kind of irritation, and they're sweat proof and waterproof. And there's a nice, soft, breathable elastic in there, so they're adjustable. We do have multiple sizes, and I had to learn all about sizing because it is an apparel jewelry product. And so this is the end result, and it came from phenomenal work from 3D CAD engineers that were able to then put together the right files for the manufacturers to start working on the molds, and then piece by piece. I mean, over a course of like 18 months, this process went. It could have gone faster if it wasn't for the pandemic. But this looks completely different than what we thought it was going to look like in the beginning. And I think that iteration was fun. But again, we did it all on the computer, and we did it all in sketches, as opposed to just constantly knocking out new products. We did do a lot of 3D printing as well, which was fun because that's more affordable because it's plastic than actually doing steel and silicone, those types of things. And so let's just go quickly. We don't have that much time. Let's go to quickly next one. So this is where I really, kind of dive into all the different elements that make a brand just crush it on the market. And I think, I got some background noise. Sorry about that, guys. So this is just a super high level arena of all the things you need to think about when growing your brand. And depending on the channel, and depending on where your brand lives, you're going to need different things. So if you look down the middle, these are things that you're going to need no matter where your brand is, right? You're going to need a great product. You're going to need social proof, strong visuals, video content, good customer service, PPC, follow-up sequences, operations, inventory management, right? And depending on how much time you have, some people, I was working full-time when I started learning on Amazon. You cannot do all of this stuff. So you need to start outsourcing things like product development, Gemba, social media, video content. Sure, I can go out and make some videos, and I have, filmed my wife using them, and I photographed her. But at a certain point, you need a photographer and you need a videographer. PPC. There are people that are way better at PPC than me, but it's extremely important to understand the metrics and the KPIs that you're looking for. And you need to know how much you're spending. So I know what my ROAS is and my return on Facebook. I know what I'm doing on Google, and I know what I'm doing on Amazon. But I do not want to manage it all myself. So that's a great area to outsource. Unless you love diving into the spreadsheets and the data, I would recommend outsourcing that.
Which I'd even argue is probably not a good use of time at the very beginning, right? Because there's so many places that you need to get into and start building your foundation along the way.
That's right. And then operations. So, what kind of, when you're onboarding people and you're building processes, how can you automate this as much as possible using software, using VAs? And then inventory management. Some people are using there's some incredible inventory management software out there. We haven't even got there. Like everything is kind of done internally with spreadsheets, which is probably not the way to do it, but that's just how we do it.
It's all one of the questions come through about, what marketplace management. It's good to know that at this stage, still you're using spreadsheets at this point. I've used at Cali Weights, we've used a company called Stitch Labs before that brings everything into one place. ShipStation, I think, is a great tool for automation on the shipping side as well. Zoho, I think, is a good tools or suites of products. So just some recommendations from one of the questions as well.
Yeah, and LinWorks is really good too. I know they were on earlier. We go back for 1 second. So really fast. And then, of course, if you're on Amazon and Walmart, you've got a ton of customers and you've got a lot of keyword data that you can leverage, and you've got competitors that you can target, and you've got fulfillment. And if you're doing Shopify, you have to bring your own traffic. You have to do fulfillment unless you're doing a third-party warehouse or you're doing Amazon. You have to do things like social media. You have to build your landing pages. You have to do your email and SMS, which I outsource. You have to make sure that you're pixeling all your customers that you can retarget, and you have to tell an excellent brand story. You can probably put a brand story on Amazon as well. But these are all the different areas. And so, in terms of doing multi-channel, you want to nail many of the things in the middle. And then it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily matter where you go from a platform standpoint if you have a great product and if you can get social proof. You just need to figure out how to get that on the Shopify side, or on the Amazon Walmart side. You need to make sure that you're bringing enough value and you're bringing enough traffic to your listing that your conversion rate is there. And so, and you can, the reviews that you get on Amazon are your reviews. So you got to make sure you have a great products that you're getting good reviews. On Shopify, you can iterate your product and relaunch a new Shopify store if you want to change your product entirely, right? So there's different strokes for different folks, and I think if you nail a lot of these things, especially down in the middle, the other things will fall into place. And it's up to you, depending on what your capital is, depending on what your time availability is, to how much you want to outsource.
So with multi-channel, one thing, as we start to wrap up, and we can go into questions as well, but how do you get feedback from the buyers? Is it just a reorder? How do you go about, being in touch with your stores? I know that was a big part of what we did at Pride Bites, and our strategy at Pride Bites is to really, build those good relationships and open those channels so you're getting that direct feedback. But what do you recommend in terms of multi-channel and how you get feedback from the current stores as you expand?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing better than having a conversation with your customer. It doesn't matter if it's on email, it could be SMS, it could be just doing a survey. And you can do that when you have your own brand and you have your own customers. You can do that subtly on Amazon by doing a product insert, driving them to your website or driving them to a survey or some sort of warranty. So we've done all of that on the Amazon side to try to get as much customer feedback and social proof, right? We want reviews on Amazon as possible. And so you can do that a lot easier when you have an email list, and you can email a ton of people and be like, hey, everyone, whoever fills out the survey gets a $25 gift certificate. We want to know why you like our product, what you don't like about it. Where would you like to see us go? And so that has been immensely helpful to have conversations, because you just learn so much from your customers, because you're so deep in your product and you're so in your brand that you're just like, oh, I didn't even think about doing this for this, for your ankles or what have you. Like, we've got doctors reaching out to us and saying that these Cali Weights are going to help them for their patients that have tremors. All kinds of stuff is happening just by having a conversation with the market. And you don't necessarily get that on Amazon and Walmart. You just get reviews. And some of the reviews are pretty brutal. And you're just like, wow, I wish you could have just picked up the phone and called me and told me that.
Right.
But you didn't.
Makes it a lot easier.
Makes it a lot easier, right? And so I think it's really powerful to have a brand, because that kind of information you own. And yes, internationally, it's much easier, I think, to get internationally overseas on places like Amazon, because they've got fulfillment centers there. And it's not that difficult to get your listing in a different language. You just have to worry about the finances, the taxes, and just the logistics of getting it there. But once you're there, you can expand. So, we've sold on Amazon in Europe, and, it's great, right? Because you don't have to do that much work once you get it set up. With Cali Weights, I haven't truly expanded yet. We want to go into Canada. We want to go into Australia and Japan. We got a lot of people that are asking for them, but it's inventory, it's logistics, it's having a trustworthy warehouse there that can fulfill for us. So it's a bit trickier. And I'm still learning, I'm always hiring consultants and mentors that have taken brands to, the 100, 200 million level. Because that's where I ultimately want to go with this brand. And sometimes I feel like I'm too in the weeds, and I need to be better about working on the business than in the business. And so that's something I'm learning. And we should just strive to incrementally get better every single day. But definitely want to think about expanding globally.
Really like that.
I'm sorry. You just have to have the right partners. Yeah.
Eric and Stephen, we've got just over 10 minutes left, and I've actually got a ton of questions, and some from the audience and some from myself, if we can jump into them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that the first question I'd like to ask is actually come from the audience. How do you protect your business against counterfeits and copycats being sold on marketplaces? But I'd really like to step back a little bit more, because I found it interesting when you were talking about, do you start off with an OEM white label product, or do you have a white label plus a feature? Yes. Or is it a brand new product development? And we all know Chinese factories, they will copy pretty much any product going if you want them to copy it. But when you add a feature and you make that product unique, how do you stop them then selling it to all of their other customers as well?
Yeah, I think it's important to do, again, we always set people up for success. I think it's, how you approach the factories. You should be using confidentiality agreements and end-to-end agreements. Obviously, having an entity in China definitely helps, so you can protect your idea one step further. We have entities in China as well and help our clients that way. You can file a patent within the local market to put that out there before you start approaching Chinese factories or approaching factories in general. But I really think that, most factories, they're looking for the product that's easy, right? If you go down and you develop your own product, which is what we suggest at Gemba every single day, is it further creates that moat. And then it gives them a harder time to actually enter the market that you want to be in because it's not established yet. And you're building that market. So there's less interest from someone to jump into a market that's not established or that's established than not established, right? So that is, I think, behind using confidentiality agreements, using a group who's focused and understands the relationship with the factory, filing patents in the direct local market, having an entity in that market, and then, of course, using your own product development instead of theirs, I think helps you prevent counterfeits and on the market.
And then on a practical level, and this is a question for you, Stephen, but I'd really like your input on it, Eric, is what stage should I be coming to a partner like Gemba to develop a product? And I've seen the two extremes in my lifetime of the really, really well finished and designed and beautiful product, but actually, frankly, bloody useless. Yeah. And also the product which is kind of really rough and almost like glued and screwed together. A brilliant product, a great idea, but frankly, nowhere near ready for manufacture. Now, sure. Cali Weights is obviously a beautifully finished product and it functions.
Right.
But should I be coming to you if I've got the function but not the form? Or should I be coming to you and saying, look, here's my form, but actually it doesn't really work. Can you make it work? Where in the journey should I be contacting Gemba or someone to say, look, help me with my product development, please?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, kudos to Eric. When I saw the product the first time too, I think getting that beauty and that function together in one product is really an incredible thing, especially then, jumping in and doing it in the foundation that Eric set up so that he gets the feedback and sees how it can grow together. And we always think at Gemba that, we want you to be comfortable at any part of the journey. So if it's just starting the idea, or maybe you're Peloton and have one of the most sophisticated supply chains in the world, really Gemba has the resources to help you from the beginning all the way to the end. And so we really say from an entrepreneurial perspective is, where do you want to go? How fast do you want to do it? What type of budget do you have involved? And not so that we can make more money, right? But we can really get you the resources that you need and build that around you, build the best supply chain product development team around you. And I think one of the beautiful things about working at Gemba is that most of the time when you're going through the product development journey, it's super fragmented. So you're going to a research group, you're going to a design group, you're going to a sourcing group. It'd be great to just do it in one place and have it completely transparent, and where you don't have to worry that if you're not talking directly to a factory or you are, that you will get the invoice and the pricing that is coming from the factory, so that you own the molds, as Eric said, and you own the process. So I think at Gemba, we can help you through every step of that journey. And be as small or as creative in the beginning of that process to very established. And I think in terms of Eric, as he can see through moving through his process, I think there's really something for everybody when we talk about our experience and moving through product creation here at Gemba.
Yeah, and Eric, for you, obviously, I've just been looking at your images of Cali Weights, and they look truly beautiful. But honestly, when you first went to Gemba, what sort of state were they in? How much of a polished product did you have when you started being serious about the development of it?
Zero.
Zero. I mean, was it an idea on paper? Would you like put something together with string, or?
I don't even know it was on paper. It was just an idea. It was like, we want something that is not 200 pounds. We don't want a warehouse full of these things that we can't ship. because our warehouse workers are, their backs are sore. And we wanted to go more female because, we already kind of had a big audience of like heavy bodybuilders. And so we wanted to go after a specific demographic. And so, those are some of the constraints. And we had no idea what they were going to look like. We knew we wanted to be super soft silicone because I think silicone is such a cool material. And it really was, just an idea that was just like, hey, we don't know if anybody's going to want to use these, but we want to kind of iterate, and we want to get just enough design that we can then do some 3D renders. And I tell you, we got funded on Indiegogo in 3 hours using nothing but 3D renders.
Wow.
I hired a Fiverr designer, and for $8 a render, he put them on some beautiful lifestyle models. And we did some really cool Facebook marketing and cool email sequences, got people revved up about the benefits of the product. And how you're going to integrate these into your lifestyle. And, next thing we know, we raised, $72,000 on Indiegogo, which was great because then it was like, oh, people would actually buy these. And, we used that money to go into manufacturing and make the molds and inventory, as opposed to just putting all that money in inventory and hoping that they sell. So that was really fun about Indiegogo, because I'd never done a Kickstarter before or an Indiegogo. And so that was a wake-up call that it was just like, okay, the market spoke. Let's give this a shot. I think it's worth investing our time and energy into this. And then back to what Steven said, it can be very fragmented. So going into one place, from design to protection to managing the relationships, because we have 4 different factories working, silicone, metal, elastic, packaging. And so someone's got to help us with that. And so that's, that's a way to do it.
So apologies, but we're running close to time, and I've got a ton more questions. So I'd like to fire them at you and have sort of one sentence answers if possible, although that's going to be a big ask. So the question for you, Eric, when you started getting retailers approaching you, how did that work on the finance side? Because often a retailer will say, oh, we want sale or return stock, and we want returns this. If something's damaged or lost, it's your problem. How did you start engaging with retailers to be able to do it on a manageable basis without you footing all the risk and then footing all the profit?
Yeah, if it was a small order, up to 100 sets, they had to pay up front, and then we would ship. And then in the case of some of our national retailers, like we got an order from Roadrunner Sports, they did Keystone pricing, and they did 30-day terms. So it's, you have to have enough cash to survive. But if you have the inventory, it's great for brand awareness.
And then, Stephen, a question for you. How many of the clients that are coming to you nowadays are looking for environmentally friendly packaging and everything? We're seeing it more and more and more. Blister packs, really, really easy. Bit of cardboard, bit of plastic, thank you very much. But obviously that's not the way of the future.
Sure.
And also, at the same time, as we're running out of time, could you touch on the difference between e-commerce packaging and retail packaging and what your recommendations are?
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are great questions. And I think from a perspective of where people are in the journey or where they're coming at, I think it's important to really assess your business needs on where you're going specifically. But, at Gemba, the way that we think about it is just really to make sure to present yourself, I guess, or your product in the best format possible. So really, what's the kind of the least resistance to get there from an e-commerce perspective about what about packaging on the shelf. I think if you're going to be selling online, you want it to be the unboxing experience. To me, is something that's really, really important, and that you really have nailed that down, because that's the start of your journey and really the start of your brand value. I think entering sustainability is definitely number one on people's priority list these days. Being socially responsible, I think, is key to an evolution of your brand. We've done it at Pride Bites, where we launched eco-friendly lines. I can see it with most of our customers at Gemba starting to think in that direction. So as you think about eco-friendly, you think about your online experience versus in-store. I think packaging is something that really can elevate above and beyond. Now, you don't have to spend as much money on the display side of things if you're not going in-store, but you still want that unboxing experience to really be a beautiful thing that really leaves an imprint on somebody's mind. So I strongly encourage it. It's not a lot of money to take that next step with packaging. And if you put a lot of effort up in the front part of your journey in packaging, you have to do less as you move through it. So considering if you're going to go multi-channel, I think is important when you're starting to develop the packaging as well. So at least you have something ready for the shelf if you need to shift, and you don't have to put so much money into it as you evolve.
Fantastic. Now we've literally got about 30 seconds left, but I mean, my top two takeaways are, thank you, Eric. If you've got an idea, then it's worth taking it forward and getting some help to develop it. And Stephen, from your side, get a professional that knows what they're doing and has got contacts in factory, people on the ground in China to protect your IP as soon as the product is manufactured. But one last question, and this can be almost a yes/no. And before we go, if someone wants to get in touch with Stephen and Eric, please visit the Gemba showcase. If you're on the Tame Bay Live platform watching today, or if you're watching this on demand, just Google Gemba and you'll find them. But Stephen, very briefly, what's the Gemba pricing model? Is it a consultancy fee? Is it a fixed fee? Is it you want equity of the business that you're partnering with? What sort of models do you work on?
Yeah, so design is fee for service, and then our production management and helping you discover and find factories is a subscription model. So you get all the pricing and invoicing directly as it is from the factory.
Brilliant, thank you. So we are up against time. So anyone that wants to find out more, as I said, get in touch with Stephen and Eric through the Tame Bay Live platform. We've got a 15-minute break coming up now before the next session. So no excuses, go and log on now. And a final reminder, when you've made contact with Stephen, Eric, any of the other speakers today or any of your colleagues, please remember to download your delegate bag at the end of the day, because that will get you any PDFs you've added to your bag. And most importantly, it will download the contacts for you so that you can get in touch after the event has closed. So Stephen and Eric, thanks so much for your time. It's been fascinating. I wish we had more time to talk.
Chris, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
A lot of fun. Thanks, Chris.